Welcome back to our channel. Although she was his high school sweetheart, their romance was complicated. It took Ron Howard 3 attempts to get her to accept his proposal. The renowned filmmaker, now 71, is disclosing the truth. Why he chose her over the biggest stars in Hollywood, the surprising names they gave their children, and the secret fortunate charm she became for his films. The unsung romance that saved Ron Howard's life is being revealed today. Ron Howard was born in Duncan, Oklahoma, on March 1, 1954. He was Ronald William Howard in full. Rance and Jean Howard had him as their first child. Two individuals who have devoted their entire lives to performing. In 1948, his father, who had been Harold Beckenholt, changed his last name to Howard. He worked as a director, writer, and actor. His mother trained in New York City as an actress. They created a family where performing and telling stories was a regular occurrence. His father was a member of the U.S. Air Force when Ron was born. Rance's love of acting remained unwavering despite his military service. He was resolved to pursue a career in theater, having studied it at the University of Oklahoma. The artistic spirit was carried into their home by his mother, Jean, who had studied acting in New York. From the start, Ron was surrounded by creativity growing up in this setting. Duncan was a tiny town with fewer than 20,000 people living there. The entertainment industry was far away, and life was straightforward. But Ron demonstrated something unique even as a toddler. His parents were aware of it right away. Their goal was to provide him with the best opportunity to further develop his talent. They decided to leave Oklahoma and start over in Hollywood as a result of that decision. After relocating to Los Angeles, the Howards continued to live frugally. Neither did they purchase a home or surround themselves with opulence. They made their home in Burbank so they could concentrate on their work without interruptions. Regardless of their level of accomplishment, they never wavered from their principles. That attitude helped Ron stay grounded even as his career flourished. When Ron was only 18 months old, he made his stage debut. He had already starred in his debut movie, Frontier Woman, 1956, by the time he was 2. He was following his father's instructions and behaved appropriately at the age of 4. There was no haste to make him a celebrity. His parents hoped he would be ready to comprehend what he was doing. It was all because of that preparedness. He got his big break in 1960 when he was cast as Opie Taylor on The Andy Griffith Show at the age of 6. The show made him a household name and ran for 8 seasons. He was given credit as Ronnie Howard at the time, and his depiction of Opie made him one of the most adored child actors on TV. His first scene on the set was a difficult one. In order to react with genuine sadness, he had to act as though his toy turtle had died. That was quite a task for a child actor, but Howard met it with extraordinary concentration. Seeing something unique in him, director Bob Sweeney taught him how to focus and bring realism to every scene. Howard's acting style was influenced by that suggestion for years to come. In the meantime, Howard found that Griffith was a father figure and mentor who helped him with his acting in life. In addition to making sure he was supported on set, he gave him advice on storytelling and professionalism. They stayed friends even after the show ended in 1968. They maintained a relationship for decades. Howard even made a cameo on the new Andy Griffith Show in 1971. Howard consistently acknowledged Griffith's influence on his early career, while Griffith frequently complimented Howard on his abilities. Howard was already demonstrating that he was capable of more than simply television while still appearing on the Andy Griffith Show. He portrayed Winthrop Peru in The Music Man, 1962, a lisp-prone bashful youngster who gives one of the movie's most outstanding musical performances. In addition to earning 6 Academy Award nominations, the film became the third highest-grossing entry of the year. In The Courtship of Eddie's Father, he portrayed Eddie Corbett in 1963. In search of a new wife for his father, who was widowed. His portrayal was commended for its comic timing and depth of emotion. Particularly pleased was director Vincente Minnelli, who saw that Howard had a natural talent for expressing genuine feelings. Howard was interested in more than just performing. He had always been captivated by the art of filmmaking. The technical aspect of television was introduced to him during his tenure on CBS's Playhouse 90. Some of Hollywood's top writers and filmmakers collaborated on the show, and Howard closely observed their methods. He learned how directors like Alex Siegel bring stories to life by observing them oversee challenging projects. Playing Steve Bolander in American Graffiti in 1973 was a major turning point in Ron Howard's career. He was still most recognized at the time as the Andy Griffith Show's Opie Taylor. He became famous due to that role. However, it also prevented him from falling out of favor as a child star. Everything changed with American Graffiti. George Lucas's film took place on the final night of summer in 1962. It chronicled a group of youngsters as they encountered significant life decisions, cruised the streets, and listened to the most popular rock and roll songs of their era. Lucas drew heavily from his own adolescent years in Modesto, California. Steve, a high school graduate played by Howard, struggled with the decision of whether to go to college or stay with his girlfriend. The film's more than 40 iconic songs by performers like Chuck Berry and Buddy Holly helped audiences relate to it. Despite being produced on a shoestring budget of less than $1 million, it generated over $140 million in revenue and 5 Academy Award nominations. It was more than just a box office hit. For baby boomers who recalled their adolescence, its tagline, "Where were you in '62?" resonated. Additionally, it sparked a surge of nostalgia for the early 1960s and 1950s. However, the effect was personal for Howard. Hollywood still viewed him like a child, even though he had been Opie for years. He was able to demonstrate his ability to play more mature characters thanks to American Graffiti. It provided him with the necessary breakthrough and paved the way for his most significant part to date. Howard's performance became noticeable to ABC management. They recognized his promise as a starring guy, and in 1974, he was cast as Richie Cunningham in Happy Days. Gary Marshall created the sitcom, which was a humorous look at American society in the 1950s. When it shifted to a multi-camera format with a live studio audience, everything changed. It had a difficult start and struggled in its first 2 seasons. The program needed the vitality that change provided. And Happy Days was the top television program by the 3rd season. In the role of the ideal boy next door, Howard portrayed Richie. All-encompassing, accountable, and relatable. The drama revolved around his character, who dealt with friendships, family issues, and adolescence. In the 11 seasons of Happy Days, Howard continued to appear until 1980. Behind the scenes, however, things weren't always easy. Initially, Howard was Happy Days' obvious star. When Henry Winkler's character, Arthur Fonzie Fonzarelli, gained popularity, that changed. With his tough man demeanor, leather jacket, and trademark i.e., Fonzie swiftly rose to prominence as the most adored character on the program. In the opening credits of Season 3, Winkler's name appeared next to Howard's. The network even thought of changing the show's name to Fonzie's Happy Days. Howard was annoyed. He had joined with the intention of taking the lead, but now he felt as though he was being ignored. He made it plain that he would quit the show if the title was altered. Fonzie was still the most talked about character even after ABC gave in and kept the original name. Despite their tight friendship, things were difficult for Winkler and Howard. Howard acknowledged that he felt Happy Days was no longer his show, even though he had never been envious of Winkler. Backstage, things got even more challenging. Howard saw that Winkler received different treatment from studio officials as his notoriety increased. They had shifted their focus away from him. On his own show, the media began to speculate that he was descending into a lower social stratum. But he took it as inspiration rather than allowing it to affect him. He became even more focused on his directing goals, wanting to show that he was capable of more than just acting. Howard did not leave Happy Days in 1980 as a failed performer. He departed with a well-defined objective and the abilities to achieve it. Ron Howard had a love for directing from a young age. He began producing short films while still a high school student in Burbank, California, after obtaining a Super 8 camera. This wasn't merely a pastime. He took his desire to master the craft seriously. He even participated in a film competition for high school students sponsored by Kodak. And came in second. That early acknowledgement demonstrated his genuine storytelling ability. One of the main influences on his future was his father, Rance Howard. Ron was urged to view directing as more than simply a hobby by Rance, an actor with knowledge of the film business. During that period, Ron was performing on The Andy Griffith Show. He was as interested in what went on behind the camera, though. He kept a tight eye on the directors, keeping an eye on rehearsals and camera work. Observing his interest, one of them informed him that he would eventually become a filmmaker. He never forgot that forecast. Ron was already certain of his goals by the time he graduated from high school in 1972. His basis has been solidified by his Super 8 films. He was now familiar with visual narrative, editing, and framing. Although he was adamant about proving he could be a director, the majority still saw him as an actor. The next step he made was to enroll at the School of Cinematic Arts at the University of Southern California. Among the world's top film schools was USC. It has excellent industry ties and state-of-the-art machinery. During a pivotal point in his career, Ron participated in the school's inaugural freshman film course. But shortly after enrolling at USC, he was cast in Happy Days as Richie Cunningham. The program became a huge hit. It became impossible for him to balance performing in class, so he had to choose. Even though he left USC before earning his degree, he continued to learn. Every role as an actor turned into a chance to learn about filmmaking. He examined how a set was operated, asked questions, and watched directors at work. No classroom could give him the practical instruction he was receiving. He returned as a guest lecturer at USC years later, relating his experiences to upcoming filmmakers. His career was formed by the lessons he learnt along the way, even though he did not complete film school. His first significant breakthrough as a director occurred in 1977, but it took a unique turn. A deal was arranged for him by producer Roger Corman. Ron could direct Eat My Dust if he consented to star in it. The script didn't excite Ron, but he recognized the greater potential. In exchange, Corman allowed him to direct Grand Theft Auto. It took Ron and his father 2 weeks to co-write the script. The movie was shot in just 23 days with a modest budget of $602,000. A young couple on the run was the subject of this action-packed comedy, which was full of crazy automobile chases and quirky characters. Although it received mixed reviews, crowds adored it. $15 million was earned at the box office by the film. A tremendous success given its modest budget. One of the pivotal moments was directing Grand Theft Auto. Ron was under pressure to make an interesting movie while juggling strict deadlines and few resources. He also directed himself in a feature picture for the first time. The success of Grand Theft Auto, more significantly, demonstrated that he was capable of more than just acting. His reputation as a filmmaker began to grow in Hollywood. The 1982 comedy Night Shift, which demonstrated that Ron Howard was more than just an actor, launched his career as a director. His most well-known role prior to this was that of Richie Cunningham on Happy Days, although he had higher aspirations behind the scenes. Night Shift was his first significant test as a director, though he had already done a few minor projects. It told the story of a shy night shift morgue worker whose life is turned upside down when his noisy, unpredictable co-worker persuades him to start an odd business, running a prostitution ring out of the morgue. The film starred Henry Winkler, Shelley Long, and an unheard-of Michael Keaton in his first major role. Howard made it work by striking a balance between heartfelt moments and outrageous comedy, despite the strange premise. The movie was a huge hit, making over $21 million at the box office while sticking to a small budget. Michael Keaton's energetic performance and Howard's direction were particularly commended by critics. He was the star of every scene, taking center stage and taking up the Best Supporting Actor award from the Kansas City Film Critics Circle. Many people still consider the movie to be among the best comedies of the early 1980s, and it has a 93% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes. Some critics weren't convinced. The impact was evident, but New York Times critic Janet Maslin felt the movie lost some of its vigor in the second half. Additionally, the movie improved Howard and Henry Winkler's professional relationship. This was different from the good times they had shared over the years. With one of his most memorable performances, Winkler demonstrated that he was capable of more than just comedy. Howard also demonstrated his ability to confidently handle a major film. Night Shift was even likened by some to other popular comedies of the time, such as Risky Business. Above all, the movie demonstrated the type of filmmaker Howard was developing into. Howard was a quick mover after Night Shift. His romantic fantasy comedy Splash, which he directed in 1984, went on to become an even greater success. Tom Hanks played a man in the movie who develops feelings for Daryl Hannah's character, a mermaid. The combination of comedy and heart was what made the original idea work. The romance between Hanks and Hannah was credible due to their chemistry, and John Candy and Eugene Levy contributed further humor. The movie marked a sea change for Hanks and Howard. It made Hanks famous and was the first movie released under Disney's new, more mature-themed Touchstone Pictures label. Splash was the 10th highest-grossing movie of the year, earning close to $70 million in the United States on an $11 million budget. Howard was commended by critics for his skill in fusing humor and feeling. The majority praised the movie, but Roger Ebert had one peculiar grievance. He believed that rather than Hanks playing the lead, John Candy should have done so. The movie was nevertheless a hit and was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Original Screenplay. It demonstrated Howard's versatility. He was a filmmaker who had the ability to innovate in Hollywood. Howard embarked on a very different task with Cocoon just a year later. The premise of an older retirement home inhabitant who finds an alien presence that makes them younger was told in this 1985 science fiction play. It was heartwarming, funny, and included Academy Award-winning, groundbreaking visual effects. Don Ameche, the Oscar winner for Best Supporting Actor, was among the ensemble of seasoned actors who starred in the St. Petersburg, Florida shot movie. Cocoon was one of the year's biggest hits, earning nearly $85 million. Apollo 13 demonstrated in 1995 how adept Howard was at transforming actual events into compelling theater. The movie recounted the events of NASA's lunar expedition in 1970. When an oxygen tank exploded, posing a life-or-death threat to astronauts Jim Lovell, Jack Swigert, and Fred Hayes. Rather than setting foot on the moon, their mission turned into a last-ditch effort to go home. The trapped astronauts were portrayed by Tom Hanks, Kevin Bacon, and Bill Paxton, while Ed Harris and Gary Sinise were the mission control leaders attempting to safely return them. Howard collaborated closely with NASA to add realism to the movie. He even shot sequences on the Vomit Comet, a plane that produces fleeting weightlessness. It was worth the attention to detail. The film received 9 Academy Award nominations and earned over $355 million worldwide on a $52 million budget. Howard was notably left out of the Best Director category, while winning for Best Sound and Best Film Editing. Apollo 13 became a classic over time. The well-known phrase, "Houston, we have a problem," has been ingrained in popular culture. Due to its cultural and historical significance, the movie was admitted to the National Film Registry in 2023. Howard, who had a lovely imagination, took on another true story a few years later. John Nash's life was chronicled in the film, which was released on December 21, 2001. A talent in mathematics who fought insanity. Nash's genius, paranoia, and eventual victory were vividly portrayed by Russell Crowe. Howard immersed viewers in Nash's thoughts with inventive storytelling techniques, disclosing important elements only when the character himself acknowledged them. It was Nash's relationship with his wife, Alicia, played by Jennifer Connelly, that gave the movie its emotional weight. In addition to winning 4 Academy Awards, including Best Picture and Best Director for Howard, her performance garnered her an Oscar. Despite having a $58 million budget, it made nearly $313 million globally. The film was more than just a box office hit, it altered public perceptions of mental illness. While honoring Nash's accomplishments and tenacity, it also assisted viewers in comprehending the difficulties associated with schizophrenia. Howard's reputation extended beyond somber dramas. With How the Grinch Stole Christmas, published in 2000, he ventured into the realm of fantasy. Although it was not an easy feat to turn Dr. Seuss's popular book into a live-action movie, Jim Carrey's portrayal of the Grinch made the picture a Christmas blockbuster. It took Carrey hours of makeup every day to change into the green, Christmas-hating persona. He compared the process to being buried alive at one point. Because the project was so demanding, Howard dressed up as the Grinch himself on set in an attempt to lighten the mood. After its November 17, 2000, release, the movie went on to become the highest-grossing Christmas picture of its era, earning $345 million worldwide on a budget of $123 million. In addition to being nominated for both costume design and production design, it took home an Academy Award for Best Makeup. Audiences loved it, despite some critics finding its darker humor out of character for a children's movie. It eventually turned into a Christmas classic, and Carrey's portrayal is still among his most memorable. Howard directed the 2006 film The Da Vinci Code, which was based on the best-selling book by Dan Brown. In the movie, Tom Hanks is symbologist Robert Langdon, who solves a riddle connected to a covert religious group and the Holy Grail. The film was immediately controversial. The Vatican denied it. Religious organizations demanded boycotts, and discussions erupted over how Christianity was portrayed. Tickets were sold despite the uproar. Ken hosted the premiere of the Da Vinci Code. On May 17, 2006, it became Howard's highest-grossing movie, earning $760 million globally on a budget of $125 million. 2 sequels, Angels and Demons, 2009, and Inferno, 2016, were his next works. The film's historical authenticity was disputed by critics, but viewers adored the way it combined action, intrigue, and history. There were some humorous parts in the show. Howard continues to laugh over the story of Tom Hanks changing his pants in front of the Mona Lisa while filming at the Louvre. Not all of Ron Howard's films are masterpieces, but he has produced some amazing ones. Inferno in 2016 and Solo, a Star Wars narrative in 2018 were 2 of his worst box office failures. Both had large budgets, excellent standards, and solid franchise relationships. Nevertheless, they had trouble drawing crowds. The third movie in Tom Hanks' Robert Langdon trilogy was called Inferno. In 2006, the first film, The Da Vinci Code, made $760 million worldwide and was a huge smash. In 2009, Angels and Demons came out with $485 million. Interest among the audience had diminished by the time Inferno came. Despite having a $75 million budget, it only made $220 million. The film was widely criticized by critics for its unclear premise and lackluster acting. The series had lost the interest of many viewers, and marketing had failed to generate excitement. Inferno seems like an afterthought in comparison to the aforementioned films. Next was the Star Wars tale Solo. Long before it was released, the movie had problems behind the scenes. The original directors, Phil Lord and Christopher Miller, were sacked in the middle of the production. After being brought in to take over, Howard worked under pressure to reshoot a significant amount of the movie. Reviews of the finished product were largely favorable, but no audiences showed up. It brought in $393 million globally, resulting in it becoming the first Star Wars film to lose money. A number of things damaged its chances. There was franchise weariness because The Last Jedi had only been out for 5 months. There had been conflicting fan reactions to the latest Star Wars movies, with many wondering if Alden Ehrenreich could match Harrison Ford's portrayal of Han Solo. The movie has trouble capturing the attention of viewers despite having strong action and plot. Despite these setbacks, Howard managed them professionally. He did not assign blame, instead expressing pride in his efforts. The biography of Ron Howard is not merely a tale of triumph in Hollywood. For many years, it has been a tale of love, devotion, and family values. He met Cheryl Alley, the lady who would be his longtime spouse, in Burbank, California, where his trip started. They were best friends in high school at John Burroughs High School. Occurred on November 1, 1970. After seeing It's a Mad World again, they headed to get pizza. Even though it was a straightforward evening, something enduring was beginning. Ron was positive that it was Cheryl. It took him 3 attempts to get her to accept his proposal. She obtained a BA in psychology and an MFA in screenwriting because she wanted to prioritize her schooling first. They were married on June 7, 1975, when she was ready. Close friends and family, including Andy Griffith and Tom Bosley, attended their modest but significant wedding. From that point on, Cheryl was his partner in everything, not simply his wife. Ron made it his practice to have Cheryl appear in all of his movies. He felt she brought him good fortune, even if it was only a brief appearance. Cheryl was more than a helpful wife, though. After launching her own writing career, she released the book In the Face of Gin. She was there through all of Ron's triumphs and setbacks. When questioned about the key to their enduring union, Ron remained straightforward. He was an advocate of respect for one another and candid communication. He believed that there was no secret recipe, only a readiness to develop together over time. After they became parents, their lives together grew. Bryce Dallas Howard was born in 1981, followed by twins Jocelyn and Paige Carlisle Howard in 1985, and their youngest child, Reed Cross Howard, in 1987. Every youngster followed a different course. After starring in The Help and Jurassic World, Bryce rose to fame. While Jocelyn opted for a quiet life away from Hollywood, Paige pursued careers in writing and performing. Reed became a professional golfer and social media star after pursuing an entirely other hobby. Despite being in the spotlight in Hollywood, Ron and Cheryl wanted to provide their kids with a regular upbringing. Giving them a secure upbringing was their main goal, and they discouraged them from acting while they were little. They frequently brought the children to movie sets, homeschooling them as needed. In order for Ron to be present for both the filming and the birth of their baby, they relocated the whole family to London when Cheryl became pregnant with Reed. Family, they felt, should always come first. They even expressed their humor and inventiveness in the names they gave their kids. The location of each middle name's conception is symbolized. Texas is the city that inspired the name of Bryce Dallas. The Manhattan Hotel known as the Carlisle Hotel inspired the names of Jocelyn and Paige Carlisle. The street next to their house at the time is where Reed Cross received his name. It's never easy to balance job and family, but Ron and Cheryl managed to do it. Ron attributes the stability of their family to Cheryl's ability to manage the logistics. Early in his career, actor-director Alan Alda advised him to approach his family with the same level of care that he put into his screenplays. That was advice Ron heeded. He made sure his kids never felt separated from him by remaining present as a father even when he founded Imagine Entertainment. They were never proponents of keeping business and home life apart. Rather, they combined the two whenever they could. Although it wasn't always easy, they managed to make it work. Simple routines like riding bikes together or going on coffee dates kept their love alive. Even though their father had a busy job, his children later talked about how this strategy gave them stability. Beyond his kin, Ron left behind an impressive filmmaking legacy. He co-founded Imagine Entertainment with producer Brian Grazer in November 1985. One of Hollywood's most prosperous production companies, it produced more than 50 films and a number of popular television shows, such as Empire, Friday Night Lights, and Arrested Development. Creating content for Netflix, Disney+, and Apple TV+, Imagine Entertainment also ventured into streaming services. After becoming public for the first time in 1986, the company was bought out in 1992 and went back to private ownership. Globally, its films have made billions of dollars throughout the years. Its most successful film, A Beautiful Mind, took home 4 Academy Awards, including Best Picture in 2002. Apollo 13, 1995, The Da Vinci Code, 2006, and Frost/Nixon, 2008, are further notable motion pictures. Every one of these movies demonstrated Ron's versatility. He had an equally important influence on television. Ron demonstrated that he was not just a skilled filmmaker but also a master storyteller across several media with Imagine Entertainment's critically acclaimed and award-winning films. Throughout his career, Ron received several of the most prominent honors in the entertainment industry. Because of A Beautiful Mind, he won 2 Academy Awards and got Frost/Nixon and Apollo 13 nominations. A Grammy for The Beatles' 8 Days a Week, 2 Golden Globes, and 6 Emmy Awards are among his other accomplishments. Over $2 billion has been made worldwide from his flicks combined. Ron has 2 stars on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, one for cinema in 2015 and one for television in 1981, in honor of his contributions. His producing business, Imagine Entertainment, has contributed to projects that have been nominated for 217 Emmys and 47 Academy Awards. In 2003, he also received the National Medal of Arts, further establishing himself as one of Hollywood's most esteemed directors.